As we approach the holiday season, many of us will be celebrating differently. COVID-19 may be limiting travel, family members we see in person, or other holiday traditions. Yet, there's much to be grateful for. For me, I'm thankful for my health, my family, my country, and my staff. I'm also grateful to serve Iowans and work in the Senate to tackle legislation, conduct oversight, and work for the best interests of the people of Iowa. I'm also thankful to reflect upon previous accomplishments. This time of year coincides with a milestone achievement, that being the anniversary of the passage of the First Step Act. And remember that criminal justice reform bill we call the First Step Act is the most comprehensive overhaul of criminal justice legislation in a generation. On December the 18th, 2018, the Senate passed the most significant criminal justice reform legislation in a generation. 3 days later, President Trump signed the bill into law. The First Step Act is an example of what the Senate can accomplish when we reach across the aisle to address our nation's most pressing problems. I'm proud that the First Step Act has been law of the land now 2 years. The past 2 years have been uniquely challenging. In the first year of the law's tenure, I worked with Senate partners to oversee implementation efforts. This included meeting with critical stakeholders in the Justice Department, reviewing the status of the law's implementation, and ensuring that the law's application reflects congressional intent. In that first year, we accomplished a lot together in a bipartisan way. Because of the First Step Act, thousands of inmates received the benefits of the retroactive application of the Fair Sentencing Act to resolve sentencing disparities that came about from legislation, I suppose, almost 30 years ago. The different disparity between those convicted for crack and those convicted for cocaine. The Justice Department also, this first year, released its Risk and Needs Assessment System, a tool used to individually review the recidivism risk of each federal inmate and place those inmates in programming to prevent future criminal acts. The Bureau of Prisons also issued procedures for more efficient access and use of home confinement program. Implementation efforts have faced significant challenges, however, namely the COVID-19 pandemic. Fortunately, the First Step Act provided tools that the administration has been able to use to help vulnerable inmates. It's become apparent during the pandemic that inmates confined in federal prisons are among the most vulnerable populations in the United States. As they are in federal custody, it's quite obvious the federal government has a duty to ensure that they're treated humanely. To that end, Senator Durbin and I urged increased review of compassionate release and elderly home detention cases in light of the COVID-19 cases within our federal prisons. We also asked the Justice Department Inspector General to review the use of home confinement authority and the preventive safety measures connected with it, COVID-19 testing, screening, and isolation measures, and the availability of the access by inmates to electronic communication. I'm pleased to say that this administration responded to many of our requests, though more work needs to be done as we continue to grapple with the effects of COVID-19 in our federal prisons. One of the most important issues that we must address is a key provision of the First Step Act, that being the requirement for the Bureau of Prisons to make programming available to prisoners to help them to live productive lives once they leave the prison. And that makes it less likely then that they will return to a life of crime. The coronavirus has made it impossible for the Bureau of Prisons, at least at this time, to provide this programming as the law intended and requires, because, you know, inmates must be socially distanced from each other to prevent the virus's spread, which flies in the face of meeting in person to participate in recidivism reduction programs. Therefore, as we move forward, balancing effective programming access with the CDC-approved safety measures is critical. As I return to leadership of the Judiciary Committee, whether that's as ranking member or chairman, depending upon the outcome of the Georgia races, I want everybody to know that I'm going to continue to make implementation of the First Step Act a priority and will ensure the Justice Department and the Bureau of Prisons faithfully execute the law. Lastly, as we embark on a new Congress and a new year, I urge my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to seek the middle ground on criminal justice reform. We've done it before, and we can do it again, and more needs to be done. The First Step Act has made a difference in the lives of thousands of prisoners and will continue to impact many in the federal criminal justice system. It gives prisoners a better opportunity to leave their criminal past behind and become productive members of society. In fact, we learned that from states like Texas, Mississippi, North and South Carolina, where they actually did a good job of preparing people to return to society with productive lives, saving the taxpayers money if there's not recidivism. Some of those states have even shut down some prisons. Alerted to that, too often Congress waits to learn something from our laboratories of our political system, the states. We learned a lot that brought about the First Step Act. There's more that we can learn and we can build on the First Step Act. It's remarkable what we were able to achieve 2 short years ago. I'm hopeful to carry that spirit into 2021 and beyond, whether I'm chairman or ranking member of the Senate Finance or Senate Judiciary Committee.